She was in labor when the Muslim doctor walked into the room. Rebecca Cohen, an Orthodox Jewish woman marked since childhood by hatred and prejudice, felt her blood run cold as she recognized the man she had insulted and publicly humiliated just a week earlier at the marketplace. Now, lying on the hospital bed, caught between screams and tears, destiny had placed in his hands not only her own life, but also that of her daughter, Sarah, who was fighting to be born. What this doctor did in the next few minutes not only saved 2 lives, but also revealed a secret that would forever change Rebecca's heart. Before continuing with this story, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and write in the comments which country you are watching from. I want to see how far this testimony can reach. This story needs to be known by people all over the world who are still trapped in hatred and prejudice, just as Rebecca was for so many years. From childhood, Rebecca heard terrifying stories about Arab terrorists who exploded buses, attacked synagogues and killed innocent children. Her mother, Sarah, used to say, "Rebecca, never trust them. They smile in our faces and stab us in the back." Her father, Mordecai, was even more radical, teaching that it was a sin to even speak with a Muslim. Rebecca grew up in a bubble completely isolated from reality. She studied at a religious school with only Orthodox Jewish children, attended only synagogues in her neighborhood, married at 19 to David Cohen, a diamond merchant equally radical. At 28, she had never had a civilized conversation with a single Muslim in her life, but there was something in Rebecca's childhood that her parents never fully told her. When she was 8 years old, the family fled from their old neighborhood, moving to Mea Shearim overnight. Whenever she asked why, her parents changed the subject or invented vague excuses about financial problems. Rebecca grew up believing that some Arab neighbor had threatened or harmed them, further strengthening her prejudice. She had no idea that the truth was exactly the opposite, and that this truth would come back to change her life decades later. It was a hot Thursday in September when Rebecca, 38 weeks pregnant, went shopping at the bustling Mahana Yehuda market. She was buying fruit for Shabbat when she heard someone speaking Arabic on the phone right behind her. She turned and saw a tall man, about 40 years old, bearded, wearing a medical coat under his jacket. Something about that man deeply irritated her. Maybe it was the fact that he was speaking Arabic in a predominantly Jewish market. Maybe it was her pregnancy hormones, or maybe it was simply all the hatred she had carried for 28 years exploding at once. "Why don't you go back to your country?" Rebecca shouted, turning to the man. "We don't want terrorists here. Are you going to blow something up?" Her voice echoed through the market, making dozens of people stop to look. The man hung up the phone and turned to her with an expression Rebecca couldn't decipher. It wasn't anger, it wasn't fear. It was something much more complex, a mixture of deep sadness, shock, and something that seemed like recognition. "I'm sorry if I bothered you," he said in perfect Hebrew with a barely perceptible accent. "That wasn't my intention." But Rebecca was out of control. "Intention? Your intention is to kill us all. You Arabs are all the same. Murderers!" She screamed louder and louder, attracting a crowd. "Get out of here. Go back to your snake pit." The man approached her with slow steps, and Rebecca could see his eyes filling with tears. He whispered something in Arabic that she didn't understand, shook his head sadly, and began to walk away. "That's right, run!" Rebecca shouted after him. "And don't come back!" An elderly woman buying vegetables approached Rebecca with a shocked expression. "My daughter," she said quietly, "you don't know what you just did." "I did what any decent Jew would do," Rebecca replied, still breathless with rage. "I sent a terrorist away." The woman shook her head sadly. "That man isn't a terrorist, dear. That's Dr. Ahmed Hassan. He saves Jewish lives every day at Hadassah Hospital." But before Rebecca could respond, a strong contraction hit her. It was too early. There were still 2 weeks until delivery. She bent over in pain, holding her belly. Something was very, very wrong. A week after the market incident, Rebecca woke up at 3 a.m. on a Saturday with violent contractions. It was different from the normal signs of labor she had studied. The contractions came in irregular, intense waves, and there was bleeding, a lot of bleeding. "David!" she screamed, waking her husband. "Something's wrong. The baby is coming, but it's not supposed to be like this." David jumped out of bed, saw the blood soaking the sheets, and panicked. "Let's go to the hospital, now!" The rush to Hadassah Hospital was desperate. Rebecca screamed in pain with each contraction, while David drove like a madman through Jerusalem's empty streets. "Hold on, Rebecca," he repeated. "We're almost there." When they arrived at the obstetric emergency, head nurse Miriam Goldberg received Rebecca in a wheelchair. One quick look was enough for her to realize the severity of the situation. "Premature placental abruption," she murmured to her assistant. "Category A. Call the on-duty obstetrician immediately." "Which obstetrician is on duty?" the assistant asked, checking the schedule. Miriam checked the board and grimaced. "We only have one tonight, Dr. Ahmed Hassan." "Only one doctor in an emergency like this?" David asked desperately. Miriam hesitated before answering. The truth was that 3 obstetricians had requested transfers from the hospital that week. They had seen the viral video of Rebecca humiliating Dr. Ahmed at the market and were so outraged they refused to work the same shift as him. "Dr. Hassan asked to take extra shifts," she said diplomatically. He likes to be available for emergencies." But Rebecca would discover later that this wasn't the whole truth. Dr. Ahmed had volunteered to cover the extra shifts because he knew colleagues were avoiding working with him. He didn't want any mother or baby to suffer because of the embarrassment he was experiencing. Destiny was preparing the most important encounter of Rebecca's life, but she had no idea that the man who could save her daughter was exactly the one she had publicly destroyed a week earlier. The emergency room doors burst open with a crash, and Rebecca's heart literally stopped beating for a few seconds. There he was, Dr. Ahmed Hassan. The man she had humiliated, cursed, and expelled from the market stood in front of her, wearing an immaculate white coat with a stethoscope around his neck. For a moment that seemed to last an eternity. Their eyes met in absolute silence. Rebecca could see the instant recognition on his face, the painful memory of that terrible day at the market returning like a tsunami. She thought he would take revenge. She thought he would turn his back and leave, letting her die. She thought he would call her all the names she deserved and refuse to treat her. Her mind raced through all the worst possible scenarios. David, who knew nothing about the market incident, was confused by the sudden tension in the air. "Doctor?" he asked hesitantly. Dr. Ahmed broke the deadly silence by looking away from Rebecca to the fetal heart monitor. The baby's heartbeats were irregular and dangerously low. His expression instantly changed from personal shock to absolute medical focus. "Mrs. Cohen," he said in a firm, professional voice, approaching the gurney, "your daughter is in severe fetal distress. The placental abruption is cutting off her oxygen supply. We have a very small window to act." Rebecca was in complete shock. She couldn't form words, just babbled incomprehensible sounds, while tears streamed down her face. Dr. Ahmed leaned over her, looking directly into her eyes. "I know you have reasons not to trust me," he said quietly, just for her to hear. "I know what happened at the market. But I promise by the memory of my own daughter that I will do everything in my power to save both of you." There was something in the intensity of those dark eyes that made Rebecca believe him. For the first time in a week, she managed to whisper, "Please, save my daughter." "I'll save both of you," he replied, regardless of anything that happened between us. But there was something in the way he said, "by the memory of my own daughter," that planted a terrible question in Rebecca's mind. What daughter? What memory? What didn't she know about this man? What followed were the most intense 4 hours of Dr. Ahmed Hassan's life. He transformed the operating room into a medical war zone, coordinating a team of 10 people in a desperate battle against time to save 2 lives. "Blood pressure 180/110 and rising," shouted the head nurse. "Fetal heartbeats dropping to 80 BPM, the monitor alerted. "Severe uterine bleeding," Dr. Ahmed quickly diagnosed. "I need 4 units of O-negative blood now." Rebecca drifted in and out of consciousness, while Dr. Ahmed worked with precision that impressed even the most experienced doctors. His hands moved with absolute certainty, each cut calculated, each suture perfect. During surgery, Rebecca heard fragments of conversations between medical team members. "Doctor," Nurse Miriam whispered, "isn't that the woman who humiliated you at the market?" "The same one who made that terrible scene?" asked another doctor. "I saw the video. It was horrible." Dr. Ahmed didn't stop operating for even a second. "It doesn't matter who she is or what she did," he said firmly. "It only matters who I choose to be at this moment." It was then that Rebecca, even in her semi-consciousness, heard something that made her understand the true dimension of the situation. "Doctor," the head nurse said quietly, "your dedication is impressive, especially after what she did to you. And considering Amira's anniversary." "Amira would be the same age as this baby if she were alive," Dr. Ahmed replied, his voice becoming slightly choked. "That's why I specialized in obstetrics. Every baby I save is a way to honor her memory." Rebecca's world collapsed, even while anesthetized. Amira. He had a daughter named Amira, had in the past tense. Her daughter who would be the same age as Rebecca's baby, a daughter who was dead. How did she die? The nurse asked gently. Terrorist attack, Dr. Ahmed said, concentrating on a particularly difficult suture. 3 years ago, a man threw a bomb on the bus where we were. I survived. She didn't. Rebecca felt like she had been punched in the stomach. The man she called a terrorist had lost his own daughter in a terrorist attack. The man she accused of being a murderer had dedicated himself to saving lives to honor his dead daughter's memory. And at that moment, she understood why he had cried at the market. He wasn't going shopping. He was returning from the cemetery, from his daughter's grave on the anniversary of her death. Sarah Cohen Hassan, as she would be called years later, was born at 7:23 a.m. on a sunny Saturday, but the first moments of her life were terrifying. When Dr. Ahmed removed her from Rebecca's uterus, the baby was blue, limp, not breathing. No response, said the pediatrician, checking reflexes. Apgar, 0. Dr. Ahmed took the baby in his arms, those same hands Rebecca had rejected with hatred, and began a desperate fight against death, gentle cardiac massage on the tiny chest, mouth-to-mouth ventilation, a microscopic dose of adrenaline. 2 minutes passed. 3 minutes. The silence in the room was sepulchral, broken only by the sound of equipment and the tense breathing of the medical team. David was outside, pacing nervously in the corridor, not knowing if his wife and daughter were alive or dead. Come on, little one, Dr. Ahmed whispered to the baby. Your mama is waiting for you. The world is waiting for you. And then, as if responding to his call, Sarah gave her first cry. Weak at first, then stronger, then a healthy, indignant wail from someone who had just been pulled from the comfort of the womb. The entire room exploded in tears of relief. Dr. Ahmed held Sarah for a few extra seconds, whispering something in Arabic that no one else understood, before handing her to the nurse to clean and weigh. When Rebecca woke from anesthesia and saw her daughter in her arms, the first thing she noticed was Dr. Ahmed's hands trembling uncontrollably. It wasn't physical exhaustion from the 4-hour surgery. It was something much deeper. Doctor, she managed to whisper hoarsely, are you all right? Dr. Ahmed looked at her with an intensity that frightened her. There were tears streaming down his face, a mixture of relief, pain, and something she couldn't identify. I need to tell you something about that day at the market, he said quietly. About why I was there. About why I cried when you said those things. Rebecca, holding Sarah for the first time, felt that her life was about to change in a way she couldn't even imagine. Dr. Ahmed pulled a chair close to Rebecca's bed and sat heavily, as if carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. His hands still trembled slightly, and she could see he was struggling to control his emotions. On the day you confronted me at the market, he began with a choked voice, I was returning from the Mount of Olives cemetery. It was the 3rd anniversary of my daughter Amira's death. Rebecca's blood ran cold. Sarah slept peacefully in her arms, oblivious to the emotional storm forming around her. Amira was exactly the age your Sarah is now when she died, Dr. Ahmed continued. She was a beautiful, intelligent girl, full of life. She loved to draw, loved playing doctor with me. She said when she grew up she would save all the sick children in the world. He paused for a moment, closing his eyes as if seeing his daughter in memory. On September 15th, 2019, I was taking Amira to daycare, as I did every morning. We took bus 18, which ran the route from our Arab neighborhood to the city center. It was a normal morning. She was singing a song she had learned at school. His voice broke, and Rebecca felt tears beginning to form in her own eyes. At 8:47 a.m., a man got on the bus at the King George Street stop. He was wearing a thick coat, kind of strange for the heat. When I saw the look in his eyes, I knew something was wrong. Dr. Ahmed took a deep breath before continuing. He was a Jewish extremist, member of a radical group that wanted to cleanse Jerusalem of Arabs. He activated a homemade bomb right at the front of the bus. I managed to push Amira back, covered her body with mine, but he couldn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Rebecca understood perfectly what had happened. The explosion threw me against the window. I broke 3 ribs, had mild head trauma, 2nd-degree burns on my arms, but I was alive. When I regained consciousness at the hospital, the first thing I asked about was Amira. Tears now flowed freely down his face. She had died instantly. Shrapnel fragments pierced her heart. The doctors said she felt no pain, that it was very quick, but that didn't console anything. Rebecca was sobbing now, hugging Sarah against her chest as if she could protect her from all the evil in the world. After the funeral, Dr. Ahmed continued, I went into deep depression. I questioned Allah, questioned my faith, questioned why terrible things happen to innocent people. I thought about giving up medicine, giving up everything. What made you continue? Rebecca managed to ask between sobs. A promise I made at Amira's grave, he replied. I promised I would honor her memory by saving other children, that I wouldn't let the hatred that killed her grow in my heart, that I would try to be a light in the world instead of more darkness. He looked directly into Rebecca's eyes. That's why I specialized in obstetrics. Every baby I bring into the world, every life I save, is a way to keep Amira's memory alive. It's my way of transforming tragedy into purpose. Rebecca finally understood the full dimension of what she had done at the market. On the anniversary of his daughter's death, at the moment he most needed human compassion, she had called him a terrorist. She had called the man who had lost his daughter to murderers a murderer. Dr. Ahmed, she whispered, I didn't know, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. But he hadn't finished the story. Rebecca, Dr. Ahmed said, gently holding her hand, there's one more thing you need to know. About why I forgave you before you even asked for forgiveness. Rebecca couldn't imagine how the story could become even more intense, even more emotionally devastating. Do you remember you asked about the Arab neighbor who made your family move when you were 8 years old, he asked. Rebecca frowned. How did he know about that? That neighbor was my father, Dr. Hassan Mahmoud Hassan, and the Jewish family he helped was yours. Rebecca's world completely stopped. Sarah continued sleeping in her arms, but everything around seemed frozen in time. My father was also a doctor, cardiologist at Shah Zedek Hospital. In 1995, you were 8 years old, and your grandfather, Mordecai Cohen, had a massive heart attack on a Saturday night. Rebecca vaguely remembered that terrible day. Her grandfather had collapsed during Shabbat dinner, and her family had gone into total despair. All the Jewish hospitals were full or had doctors unavailable because of the Sabbath. The only option was to take your grandfather to an Arab hospital, but your family refused. They preferred to let him die than be treated by Arab doctors. But my grandfather didn't die, Rebecca said, confused. He didn't die because my father learned of the situation through a medical colleague. He left home at 11 p.m. on a Saturday, took his personal medical equipment, and went to your house. Rebecca began to remember fragments of that night, a strange man arriving at their house, her parents screaming, her mother crying. My father spent the entire night saving your grandfather's life right there in your living room. He performed an improvised emergency angioplasty, stabilized vital signs, stayed there until he was sure he was out of danger. And then, Rebecca asked, though she already knew the answer would be painful, the next day when your grandfather was stable and out of danger, your family expelled my father from the house, said they didn't want to owe anything to an Arab. Your father, Mordecai, spat in my father's face and said he would rather have died than owe his life to a Muslim animal. Rebecca closed her eyes, feeling waves of shame and nausea. But the worst was yet to come, Dr. Ahmed continued. Your family spread throughout the Orthodox community that my father had tried to poison your grandfather, that he had tried to kill him instead of saving him. They ran such an intense defamation campaign that my father lost several Jewish patients. That's why you moved, Rebecca whispered, finally understanding. Exactly. My family had to move to another neighborhood because life became unbearable. My father never again managed to work in hospitals that served Jewish patients. He died 5 years later, bitter and disillusioned with human nature. Rebecca was crying uncontrollably now. Her family's story was being rewritten before her eyes. The man she had learned to hate had saved her grandfather's life. That man's son had just saved her daughter's life. That's why I forgave you before you even asked, Dr. Ahmed said softly. Because I understand the cycle of hatred. I understand how a family can teach a child to hate without her even knowing why. My father forgave your family too. He said they acted out of fear, not malice. How can you forgive after everything we did to your family? Rebecca asked between sobs. Because forgiveness isn't a gift for those who were wrong, he replied. It's freedom for those who forgive. If I carry hatred in my heart, the one who suffers is me. If I choose love, the one who grows is me. Dr. Ahmed stood up from the chair and looked at Sarah sleeping. Your daughter will grow up in a better world if we break this cycle here now. She doesn't need to inherit the hatred you inherited. She can learn that there are good people in all peoples, in all religions. How? Rebecca asked. How do I break a cycle of 28 years of prejudice? By starting to question everything you were taught, Dr. Ahmed replied. by starting to know the truth about the people you were taught to hate. In the 3 months following Sarah's birth, Dr. Ahmed Hassan did something that would forever change the course of several lives. He decided to visit Rebecca regularly, not as a doctor, but as a friend. David initially didn't like the idea. "Why does an Arab doctor want to be friends with us?" he asked suspiciously. "What interest does he have?" But as the visits continued, David began to see something he had never expected. Dr. Ahmed had no hidden agenda. He genuinely cared about Sarah and Rebecca's well-being. He brought books about baby care, helped with minor medical issues, and gradually became a constant, comforting presence in their lives. During these visits, Dr. Ahmed began telling Rebecca about his own spiritual journey after Amira's death. "When Amira died," he said one afternoon, "I questioned everything about my faith. How could Allah allow an innocent child to die so violently? How could a God of love allow so much hatred in the world?" Rebecca, who was breastfeeding Sarah, listened with complete attention. "I spent months studying not just Islam, but all religions. I wanted to understand how different peoples find meaning in pain, how they transform suffering into wisdom." "And what did you discover?" she asked. "I discovered that all true religions teach the same fundamental thing: love your neighbor, forgive your enemies, care for the needy, be a force for good in the world. The differences are just superficial details." He picked up a book he had brought. "This is a translation of the Quran with comparative comments from Jewish and Christian texts. I wanted you to see how our traditions are more similar than different." Rebecca hesitated. "I don't know if I should read this. My family—" "Your family doesn't need to know," Dr. Ahmed said gently. "This is between you and your conscience, between you and God." That night, after David fell asleep, Rebecca began to read, and she was shocked by what she found. The Quran spoke about Moses with veneration. It spoke about Abraham as the father of faith. It recognized Jews as people of the book, special people chosen by God. There was no hatred, no calls for violence, only love, compassion, and mutual respect. "How is this possible?" she asked Dr. Ahmed on the next visit. "I was taught that the Quran commanded killing all Jews." "You were taught a distorted interpretation used by extremists," he replied. "Just as there are Jewish extremists who distort the Torah to justify hatred toward Arabs, but the true message of both religions is love and peace." Over the following months, Dr. Ahmed brought more books, more study material. Rebecca began to understand that she had grown up in a bubble of false information designed to keep hatred alive. "Dr. Ahmed," she said one day, "why are you doing this? Why are you educating me about your religion?" "Because," he replied, "education is the only antidote to prejudice. You can't hate people you really know. And because I see something special in you, Rebecca. I see a soul that's ready to grow." "How can you see something special in me after what I did?" "Because you're here asking questions, questioning everything you believed. That takes a lot of courage. Most people prefer to live in ignorance rather than face the possibility that they might be wrong." It was at this moment that Rebecca realized something fundamental had changed inside her. It wasn't just that she had stopped hating Muslims. It was that she had begun questioning the entire belief system she had been raised in. "Dr. Ahmed," she said hesitantly, "can I ask you something very personal?" "Of course." Do you think it would be possible for someone like me to become Muslim?" The question hung in the air between them, like an invisible bridge being built between two worlds that had always seemed irreconcilable. Dr. Ahmed was silent for a long moment, clearly choosing his words carefully. "Rebecca," he said finally, "religious conversion isn't something you do out of gratitude or emotion. It's a profound journey of the soul that must come from genuine conviction." "I know that," she replied, "but in recent months, studying, questioning, rethinking everything, I feel like I'm discovering a spiritual connection I never had before. Like I'm finally finding God for real, not just the empty rituals I was taught." "And your family, your husband?" Rebecca sighed deeply. "David is starting to notice changes in me. Yesterday he asked why I stopped complaining about our Arab neighbors, why I don't get nervous anymore when I hear Arabic music on the street. And what did you answer?" "I said that being close to death during childbirth made me rethink many things, that seeing you save our daughter showed me there's goodness in places I never thought to look." Dr. Ahmed stood up and walked to the window, looking at Jerusalem's streets outside. "Rebecca, if you decide to follow this path, it won't be easy. Your family might reject you. Your community might expel you. You might lose everything you know." "I know," she said, holding Sarah against her chest. But I also know I can't live a lie anymore. I can't pretend to hate people I don't know anymore. I can't teach Sarah the same prejudices that almost made me lose the chance to save her life. Then let's go slowly, Dr. Ahmed said, sitting back down. Let's study more, talk more, make absolutely sure this is a decision that comes from the heart, not the head. Over the next 6 months, Rebecca dove into studies with an intensity that surprised her. She read about Islamic history, philosophy, jurisprudence. She learned about the 5 daily prayers, about Ramadan, about the pillars of faith. But more important than everything, she learned about Jerusalem's Muslim community. Dr. Ahmed took her, very carefully and discreetly, to meet Muslim families, see how they lived, how they raised children, how they practiced their faith daily. They're so normal, Rebecca said after one of these visits. The mothers worry about the same things I worry about. The fathers want the best for their children, work hard, try to be good people. Of course they're normal, Dr. Ahmed laughed. What did you expect? Horns and tails. Rebecca laughed too, but then became serious. I expected to find enemies and found people who could be my friends. It was at this moment that she knew there was no turning back. There was no way to return to ignorance after seeing the truth. 8 months after Sarah's birth, Rebecca made the most important decision of her life. It was a Friday morning, and she had spent the entire night praying. First the Jewish prayers she had known since childhood, then the Islamic prayers she had learned in recent months. When Dr. Ahmed arrived for his weekly visit, Rebecca was waiting for him in the living room with a serene expression he had never seen before. Ahmed, she said, it was the first time she called him just by his first name. I'm ready. Ready for what? To pronounce the Shahada, to become Muslim, to embrace Islam completely. Dr. Ahmed sat down slowly, visibly moved. Rebecca, are you absolutely certain? There's no time pressure, no rush. This is a decision for life. I'm certain, she replied firmly. In recent months, I felt an inner peace I never knew before. I felt a connection with God that goes beyond rituals and traditions. I found a community based on love and acceptance instead of fear and separation. And Sarah? How will you explain to her when she grows up? Rebecca looked at her daughter playing on the carpet. I'll tell her the complete truth, that she was born in a moment of miracle, when hatred transformed into love, when prejudice transformed into understanding, that she is a living bridge between 2 peoples that Allah wants to see united. And David? That was the hardest question. Rebecca sighed deeply. David still doesn't know about my spiritual journey, but I can't live a lie with him either. I'm going to tell him everything tonight after he comes back from work, and if he asks for divorce, then I'll accept it, because I can't be the woman he married anymore. That Rebecca died the day you saved our daughter's life. The new Rebecca needs to live with integrity. That afternoon, in the presence of Dr. Ahmed and 2 Muslim witnesses, Rebecca Cohen pronounced the words that would change her life forever. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulu Allah. I bear witness that there is no deity except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Tears streamed down everyone's faces. Dr. Ahmed hugged Rebecca as if she were his own daughter. Welcome to the family of faith, he said with a choked voice. Amira would be happy to know that her death brought spiritual life to someone, that the cycle of hatred was finally broken. Rebecca, now Rahma, the Arabic name she chose meaning mercy, held Sarah in her arms. My daughter, she whispered, you are living proof that God can transform any heart, can heal any wound, can build bridges where before there were only walls. That night when David returned from work, Rahma told him everything. His reaction was exactly what she expected. Shock, anger, total incomprehension. Have you gone crazy? He shouted. Became a terrorist, betrayed our family, our tradition, our community. I found God for real, she replied calmly. I found peace. I found love where before there was only hatred. And Sarah? Are you going to raise our daughter as a Muslim? I'm going to raise Sarah to know and respect all faith traditions. She'll know her Jewish roots and she'll know the faith that saved her life. When she grows up, she'll choose her own path. David did exactly what Rama expected. He asked for divorce. Her family disowned her. The Orthodox community expelled her. She lost her house, friends, financial security. But she gained something infinitely more precious. She gained a soul at peace. Dr. Ahmed helped Rahma and Sarah move to a small apartment in Jerusalem's Muslim neighborhood. The Islamic community welcomed them as family. Sarah grew up bilingual, bicultural, knowing both Hebrew and Arabic, respecting both Jewish and Islamic traditions. 5 years later, Sarah has two spiritual fathers, Dr. Ahmed, who saved her life and became like a grandfather to her, and Rama, who found a faith based on love instead of fear. "Mama," Sarah sometimes asks, "why do some people hate other people they don't know?" "Because they're afraid, my daughter," Rama responds. "But you're going to help the world have less fear and more love." And so a story that began with hatred, prejudice, and near tragedy ended with love, understanding, and hope. Dr. Ahmed Hassan continued saving lives, honoring Amira's memory with every baby he brought into the world. Rama became a living bridge between Jerusalem's Jewish and Muslim communities, working for interfaith dialogue and peace. Sarah grew up being living proof that it's possible to break cycles of hatred, that it's possible to transform enemies into family, that it's possible to choose love even when the whole world teaches you to hate. And somewhere in heaven, a little girl named Amira smiles, knowing that her death wasn't in vain, that it brought life, hope, and transformation to people she never knew, but who are now part of her eternal spiritual family.